As mentioned in my previous video about Cold One Riders, Lizardmen have quite a few units which I would consider best in class, and that extends to their heroes. Yes, Saurus Scarvets, in my opinion, are the best generic melee hero in the game, and so that kind of includes your captains. Paladins as well are pretty high on that list, which I'm facing off against two here. We've got Fae, double Paladin, against my kind of counter to that, High Slan with double Scarvet. My opponent's also got two Hippogriff Knights currently already charging in on some Chameleon Skinks. 5 Chameleons. We've also got 5 Source Warriors with Spears. Not the most imaginative build in the world, but hey, it works. We've got 2 Solar Engines as well to provide some long-ranged pressure. And yeah, for my opponent, besides all these expensive units, he's got a whole smattering of peasants and men-at-arms, archers, all spread out super wide here. Knights Errant as well for some regular shock cavalry, low tier, but still help clean up skinks and so on. So we're going to be applying some pressure with that Tempest there. And yeah, also with the Chameleon Skinks in this kind of initial phase, my opponent getting a little aggressive with those Hippogriff Knights. These are ones I actually might be able to rout. We do take down a model there before he's able to get regrowth off, which is just awesome. That means he won't be able to heal that individual model, right? Because you can't resurrect them. Do we drop any more models here? No, not quite, it looks like, but we do manage to rout them. But yeah, Scarvets, let's come back to these guys. So, what makes them so good? In my opinion, it's a combination of a few things. Their ability set's not amazing. They don't have the best support abilities in comparison to, say, someone like Bob. That is the Black Orc boss. But they do have a great mount selection. They actually can go all the way up to a high-tier monster mount in the Carnosaur. You've also got the Cold Ones as well. So they have quite a few options in that way. And just being able to tech into that high of a monster pick. Right now, monsters are in a little bit of a weird place in the meta. Like, I will fully admit, this is a ladder opponent. I matched against this guy once before, and he beat me with this exact same build. I had brought a Saurus Old Blood on a Carnosaur as my lord, and it just didn't go well. And that also means these guys being in the hero slot, you can take them with the Slans, which are probably the best choice in a lot of situations for the Lizardmen. Your various Slans, whether that be high, life, generally those are the two best. But yeah, the Saurus Scarvets also can go on foot, where they have a loadout of halberd and shield, which in and of itself is relatively rare. Again, no Guardian, but given that foot lords and heroes have recently been buffed, Saurus in general have super high mass, and they were some of the best infantry before at holding up against, getting knocked around by stuff. So now, more than ever, these guys are pretty sturdy in that way. A charge defense against large, not the most amazing stats, only 38 attack, not great, but obviously anti-large of 30, which is very good, puts them up to 68 melee attack against large targets, 47 defense is pretty solid, 85 armor, and a 35% missile block chance, on only 700 points with just on foot and no abilities, so quite good in that way. Right now, my Solar Engines, if we look back at the battle, are just kind of applying some pressure on those Pox arrows, trying to get rid of as many archers as we can in the early game so that they're not applying too much range pressure to my Saurus. They only have 60 armor and a 35% missile block chance, so it's not super cost effective for them to be getting shot by peasants. But for the time being, Scarvets are just chilling back for now, waiting until my opponent comes to strike with his big mobile goon force. Paladins, as I mentioned, I have done a video in the past about Paladins as well, so be sure to check that out as this banishment comes in here to annihilate some of these archers, and oh yeah, that's super juicy, just right through those peasant bowmen, right down the line, basically wipes the unit, so that's pretty good. I mean, it's not the best value, but in terms of tactical value, and also decides to roll over some of this other one as well, so very good RNG on that banishment, I have to say. Grateful for that, but yeah, anyway, the Paladins, I mean, they have Guardian, which is one thing I will say the Scarvets do lack in comparison to a lot of other units in this class. Your Noble... Nobles, do they have Guardian? Actually, I don't remember. Yeah, the Master I know for sure does. Like the Tomb Prince does, for example. But something about the Scarvets on foot, I think because their mass makes them exceptional. Like here, they're just going to help hold the line. If I can get a hold of any of my opponent's lords or heroes, that'll be great. Nice comet drop there. Another Tempest also being thrown at these Hippogriff Knights. They did get some healing and come back, which is, you know, tough. I didn't have any Pterodons to pressure them off, which is, you know, my mistake there. But the Stegodons, thankfully, or Bastillodons rather, Solar Engine, this one is close enough to get some terror, which it does manage to terrify away some of these knights and so on. My Slon, though, getting absolutely gooned, or attempted to be gooned. He did use Shield of the Old Ones there, also healed himself up a little bit, but with the focus, Peasant Archer Fire, and these Hippogriffs now making concerted effort to snipe him. He's not long for this world, unfortunately, but look at this. In that short amount of time I was distracted, the Fey Enchantress got tangled up. Saurus, because they have such high mass, it was a little bit hard for her to pull away there, and I was able to get these two Scarvets 2v1 on the Fey and just take her out while she was away from the sources of Guardian. Of course, Fey Enchantress, now that she's routed, has lost the Blessing of the Lady, so she won't get that 20% physical resistance baseline. With the Guardian, she has up to 35% physical resistance. When you add that with her magic resistance, it's basically 35% damage resistance, right? Because magic resistance covers magic damage, which physical resistance is vulnerable to. So anyway, quick lesson on resistances there. But yeah, this sniping attempt, my Slon does go down here. You can see his chair sitting sadly there. But thankfully the Saurus Scarvets, perfectly healthy here, were able to hold. I did bring them on foot very explicitly because up against Paladins, I mean, Paladins also have anti-large, right? So if I'm on foot, that anti-large bonus won't apply. It does give me a lack of mobility, but since Lizardmen have poison coming out their ears in every direction, I figured it wouldn't be too much of an issue. So you kind of take a nice cinematic look, and it's interesting in the comments, a lot of people are like, do more cinematics, whereas other people are like, do more tactical views, trying to get a balance of both. But yeah, the Saurus just been holding the front line here of peasants the whole time, while this back line's been somewhat of mayhem. A little bit of chaos going on back here, not full-on chaos, but you know what I mean. But yeah, this Solar Engine, again, this big snipe attempt, few remaining. Hippogriff Knights come in here. Thankfully, though, that blinded debuff from the Solar Engine is going to keep their stats pretty low. They're not really actually going to be making that much consistent contact here. Solar Spears managed to somewhat dodge that comet, did get a little bit of damage in there, but able to path them into this combat, and now all these large units just having a tough time. The Fey Enchantress tries to come back in here. She came back from route here to heal herself up a bit. Now is going to be applying some kind of Mortis pressure here, but it could be a mistake. Bastillodon's a heavy boy. If she gets caught up against him, and this, see, this Scarvet is here. The Scarvets get even a couple of hits on her, it's going to be a bad day. Another Earth Blood there to hit a few targets to heal them up. But yeah, let's keep it close because, well, you know, there will be peasants fighting Saurus in the background. No one really cares about that. We're here to see these guys duel. Scarvet up against the Paladin, 1v1. There's a handful of peasants around, but Scarvet doesn't really care too much about the peasants. And the Skink Javelin's also indicating, it's sticking out of the horse's head, indicating that the Paladin, of course, is poisoned by the Howdah. Over here, more Hippogriffs rush in. The other Paladin's in. Knights Errant charging from the rear. There's a handful of Chameleon Skinks just being raffle stomped, but excuse me. Raffle stomped. Almost killed me. By all these cav here, but the Saurus Spears, we've still got plenty healthy from the front line. The Men-at-Arms and Peasant Mobs really didn't do anything to them, so they're now here to help support. And of course, that means, of course, like I said, Saurus Mass. Paladin will have it hard. He'll find it hard to pull away. He'll have a hard time, I should say. Yeah, and Hippogriffs do create a little bit of a lane there. He's able to squeak away. But Scarvet's just holding firm at this point, really haven't taken much damage at all. And if you think about from a Bretonnian army standpoint, I mean, what's really going to be great in your typical Fey double Paladin build at killing these Saurus Scarvets? I mean, maybe they bring a unit or two of Foot Squires, but even then, not get a nice side charge with one of your monsters, like even the Solar Engine, you know, with its anti-infantry AP into Foot Squires who have pretty low defense. You know, you'll be able to terrify them away relatively quickly, and it's just, it's not great for Bretonnia. They really don't have any amazing options for killing these guys. Maybe like Gotrek, or if they obviously got singled out by multiple single entities, that would be a problem. But in general, Saurus Scarvets, I think, are an interesting option in this matchup to bring on foot. I mean, the lack of mobility is a little bit painful. There's a chance you could just get bogged down in peasants and the rest of your army could get killed, but now we're going to go through a little bit of an extended chase phase. You can see here that solar engine shot actually, plus the attack by missile debuff from the chameleon skinks. I was able to break off this giant contingent of peasant archers here. I'm going to try and chase them off, but my opponent does come in with the Fae, a couple of Hippogriff Knights that rally and bail them out for the most part. Meanwhile, over here, I'm going to try and get another goon attempt. This paladin comes in to attack the solar engine. Saurus are just real angry about what happened to the Salon earlier, so they're going to enrage here, and although I didn't, order them to do this, this is pretty much exactly what I want, is for them to bog this paladin down, and you can see this is a very good, clean example of how Saurus have so much mass, there's no way the paladin's pulling out, especially in that direction where it's literally like a thick line of Saurus. He does manage to break them, even though he's not actually fighting them, but look at that, here come the Scar veterans, they were able to hold him in place just long enough. Nice side charge from the Bastildon as well. Does actually stagger that guy, but hey, they did enough. That Paladin terror routes there, and that forces my opponent to come over, commit some more stuff into this blob fight, which Saurus Spears will make quick work of this, and also the Fae comes in, which if we've seen anything from before, it's that the Fae would probably have a bad time in a situation like this, so yeah, she immediately nopes out of that. Smart, but at the same time, Knights Errant shatter, Hippogriff Knights shatter, so fast forward a little bit more as we kind of recombine our forces, make sure we pressure off wherever we can. And, whoa, what happened? Yep, the Fae Enchantress just YOLO'd into some Saurus Spears and died, and that was army losses, so a little bit of an ignominious ending there, but it is what it is. Saurus Scarvets, considering I paid 700 points for them, they both more than doubled their value. And that is just absolutely excellent. I know that Fae Double Paladin is a terror in the night for many people, many factions. Bretonnia actually might be a top-tier faction right now because of this hero combination being what it is. Like, people have slowly discovered that, kind of successive buffs over time. And especially, like, the Poison Arrow change, it affected both of these factions, both Lizardmen and Bretonnia to a high degree, to be honest. But especially Bretonnia with the Pox Arrows, being able to utilize cycle charging with your Knights and other stuff more effectively. Paladins also, just because of the Fae is ridiculously tanky, for what you would expect for a caster lord. The Paladins do complement her very well, but I would say from a baseline perspective that the Saurus Scarvets are better. Whoops, I was going to go over the damage values there, guys. I'll probably add a little slide right here. Slon actually getting some really nice value. Scarvets both, like I said, more than doubling up on their values. Saurus, actually, 2 of them did pretty decently. 3 of them not so much, but this one in particular that finished off the Fae Enchantress at the end there was really nice. The Chameleon Skinks all pretty much paying for themselves. They are, as I mentioned before, probably the best infantry skirmish unit right now. Solar Engines also both just barely paying for themselves if you average it out. Fae Enchantress actually didn't get too much Mortis Drain value this time, which is really nice. I would say it was pretty key, me breaking her with those 2 Scarvets early on. The Paladins also had a little bit of a tough time. One of them does pay for himself probably, but the other one does not. Peasants, I mean, Men-at-Arms, they all just ran away for the most part. Some of the Peasant Arrows did actually get some pretty decent value, and the Knights Errant also doing pretty good considering how cheap these guys are. The damage value here all well above, I should say, for this guy, just barely above their cost of 650. Is it 650 or is it 750? It's 750, I want to say. 700, let's double check, I forget. But generally cheap, right? And if you kind of average it out, these guys all pay for themselves. The Hippogriffs were tough, though. Hippogriffs are decent in this matchup, but High Salon does counter them to a degree. The Tempest exists, and as a result, you really can't bring these multi-model flying units against factions that have it. Otherwise, you run the risk of just getting deleted by it. And here, I mean, the missile pressure plus that was enough to deal with these Hippogriff Knights. But anyway, let's go ahead and just talk quickly about the Saurus Scarvets. Oop, not greenskins. And just kind of think about, in comparison to some other generic melee heroes. So the Scarvet, in terms of mount options, is way up there. I mean, I believe, I want to say, we'll check through, but I want to say he has the highest tier mount. You pay 1200 which is quite a bit. It's 1900 for a Carnosaur. Basically, it's like a non-enraging Feral Carnosaur. More or less the same stats, a little bit more HP, but you do gain Encourage instead of Enrage, and also have Cold-Blooded, of course, as well. You'll also be able to be subjected to Guardian from, say, Star Chamber Guardians. And yeah, that all, again, because it occupies a hero slot, you can then come in and say, oh, I want a Life Salon. And this combination in particular, Life Salon plus Scarvet, is quite strong. Obviously, healing Carnosaurs are very good, except their HP is not amazing for the class. 5,600 HP isn't amazing in comparison to something like a Shaggoth, so the healing does help offset that quite a bit. Of course, as we saw there, on foot, very cost effective, only 700 points, and because that anti-large AP, some specific interactions can be very, very good. I would say probably Tomb Kings is another good one for these guys. Yeah, anyone where you expect them to bring expensive large targets, or even just high-value specific large targets, right? Like, yeah, I'd kind of have to go through matchup by matchup, but I'd say probably, I mean, they're a cost-effective add if you have an empty hero slot, and say all your 360 shooting slots are filled, for example. Like there, if I had, I could have optioned in one Skink Chief, right? But as per the new banner rules, I would not be able to take more than these 6 360 shooting, so Scarvet kind of fills this extra slot here. But in general, I would say them being tanky melee kind of anti-large heroes is a great benefit to Lizardmen. Given that in some matchups, your main anti-large tools you would think are big monsters are like Carnosaurs, right? But against concerted range fire or specific, you know, gooning attempts, mobile gooning attempts, and so on, it can be tough to protect those big monsters. So Scarvets are here. Their Cold One is also decent. 100 armor is not too bad. 68 speed is not great, but it's okay. 400 weapon strength with 30 anti-large, 280 AP is very solid. Only 1,000 points. I mean, in comparison, the Paladin here, let's say with Guardian, or even just without Guardian, Horse is only 650, and that is one advantage the Paladin does have, is a little bit more cost-effective. I mean, obviously on the mount, 1,000 versus 650 is pretty significant. Only 400 on foot for the Paladin, which I don't know why you'd ever take a Paladin only on foot. Maybe it would be okay in some matchups. I don't know, remains to be seen, but yeah, definitely mounted, or even on Pegasus, which these guys do not have access to a flying mount. Instead, they have an actual monster, which may be better in some situations. Just thinking about other kind of prominent melee heroes, the Black Orc boss offers a lot more support abilities. He's also a pretty good combatant in and of himself, but doesn't have AP or anti-large, unless you take him on the board, then he does have AP, but it's still a little bit lower weapon strength than even the Cold One, right? Higher charge, I believe, but let's say just his base kit. Yeah, 1125. He is more expensive than the the Scarvet on the Cold One. A little bit better attack and defense, less weapon strength, no anti-large. Armor's basically the same. Health is basically the same. So they're pretty comparable, actually. But of course, the Black Orc Big Boss immune to psychology, which it should be noted, the Source Scarvets, although they do cause fear, they're not immune to psychology. They do cause fear on the Cold Ones, of course, because of them. And no support abilities in the same way. Bob has 2 really nice passive supports, and also, you know, Heroic Killing Blow, pretty decent. But this immune to psychology, situationally very, very effective for the Greenskins in general, and Brass Cleaver. Yeah. So there you go. I could pull in some potential other generic melee heroes like the elf ones, but I think I've kind of already talked through most of the ones I was thinking of. Just one more quick, I guess one other that can take a monster. It's not the same high tier monster, but it is a similar situation in that you get a monster that would normally enrage with better stats, right? In comparison from a Feral Manticore to an Exalted Hero on a Manticore. Pay 300 points. He does have more weapon strength, more charge, better stats, and plus 35 armor in particular is pretty decent. Makes that Exalted Hero, in my opinion, a pretty worthwhile upgrade. In the same way that I think the Scarvet does give you a worthwhile upgrade over a Feral Carnosaur for a few different reasons. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.